Hey everyone, this is Cindy Garrard with Soul Hype Cindy. We spend our lives navigating friendships, relationships, health. Let's do it together. Let's leap into our best and most enriching lives through true and inspiring stories. Welcome back to Soul Hype Cindy. Today we have Todd Craig, who is personal friend, and give a little background on him, is that he is the chief of staff at Lighthouse Family Retreat, a nonprofit organization strengthening families affected by childhood cancer through restorative retreats and resources. He additionally offers coaching services that help individuals identify, develop, and live according to their goals, desires, and dreams. From childhood, Todd has been driven by a profound passion to help others discover and thrive in a life they were meant to be. With over 2 decades of experience in facilitating, clarifying conversations, and guiding people through life transitions, he employs strategic tools and thoughtful questions that help clients move forward, both personally and professionally. Todd resides here in Santa Rosa Beach with his wife, Stephanie, and their 3 sons, Ethan, Caleb, and Will.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. So great to be here.
I am so happy to have you. Todd Craig is actually has personally helped Jeff and I as a marriage coach in the past, and I'm super grateful for your insight. One time I got very, very upset in one of our sessions, and I was literally probably screaming at the top of my lungs. I was so upset, and I'll never forget, had kind of like an emotional break, and you just sat there and you're like, Jeff, Cindy's being vulnerable. And it was like, because the emotional outburst was, and I told, my dear friends recommended you to us, and I called her after it, and I said, girl, I was like, if Todd stops coaching married couples, it's my fault. I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, it's okay. Like, he probably sees it all the time. Like, don't feel bad, And so she really gave me comfort that I didn't make you want to retire.
No.
And and being the chief of staff for Lighthouse Family Retreat, I would like for you just kind of get a little, for people that don't know you or are not local, may not know, can you briefly describe what that is?
Yeah, so Lighthouse Family Retreat's a nonprofit that exists to strengthen families living through childhood cancer. And one of the primary ways that we do that is through week-long restorative retreats. And these retreats are for the entire family. And so we want to serve not only the child that's on treatment, but we also want to create some space for rest and hope for the parents, because it's not just the child that's affected by the cancer, but marriages and relationships and siblings as well. And so really kind of our aim is to serve the entire family. And a lot of it's just giving them space to retreat out of just the chaos of treatment. And often means that like one parent's at the hospital and one parent's at the house taking care of the house. And so just giving them time away to reconnect, to rest. We want to create moments of joy for them as well, to remember what it's like to laugh and to celebrate as a family. So that's primarily what we do. We have families that come down to serve those families as well, so they will fundraise. So the retreat families, which are the ones that have a child on treatment, they don't pay anything for the retreats.
So it's a huge gift to them.
Yeah, and those families that come down to serve, raise the support for them to do that. And the other thing that I love about it is the families that come down to serve are serving together as families as well. And so often when we talk about going and serving places, kids that are like 3 or 4 years old, it's like what do we do with them? There's work that they can't do. And on the retreats, like if they just come and just be a kid, like that's the best way that they can serve, is to just be themselves. And so it's just a joy to get to be a part of that. I've loved it.
Our family had the privilege of doing that one summer. I don't know. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So we
up in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, it was
St. Simon's.
St. Simon's.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it was really cool because Jeff has done mission, and I've done mission, but we've never done it as a family.
Yeah.
And it was really to see our children like step up in that way. Was really a gift to our family. And then we also served alongside another family The
That's
Joneses.
right. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
the Joneses. And they
good friends now.
are like some of our closest friends
Yeah.
now, and are actually the godparents to our children.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
it's funny when you serve together, it really, there's a bond there that I think that's created.
Yeah.
But it really was a gift for us to, and put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah, for
too.
sure.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
a lot of things into perspective. Here, this, woman she had just had a child.
Yeah.
And her son was diagnosed. So, she didn't even get to bond. It was just, instantly her family.
Yeah.
And it was really impactful for our family to do that. And it was an unforgettable experience. So
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say this for people that are considering doing that, for people with careers, a lot of people think something, there's no way that I can leave my job for a week, but you can, because you actually have breaks in between. We had surgeons on ours. I mean, so you literally can still serve as a family, because there are breaks for you to get and kind of keep on top of some of your work.
Yes.
So that's really nice. It's not like it's different than flying, overseas and being in a different time zone or stuff like that. The commitment of time during the actual serving.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the afternoons there's some downtime for rest, which you usually need.
Yeah.
After pouring yourself out.
Or you're being able to be on the laptop. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, that's right.
And then also you do Journey Bravely.
Yes.
Which my husband's been a part of.
Yeah.
And I told my friend, I called her, I said, I don't know what they're doing over there at Journey Bravely, but one time my husband, which his name's Jeff, for those that are listening, I have an amazing husband. Quick question. Because you probably got to know Jeff a whole lot better this last year.
Yeah.
What is one thing that surprised you about Jeff?
Oh man, that's a great question. Jeff's a connector.
Yes.
And I think about that with you as well. Even listening to the podcast, your all's connections in the community and your desire to connect others. I think that's true of both of you. But that really stood out for me with Jeff is as he learns things, he wants to share them.
Yes.
And that was really fun to watch. Yeah. Yeah. And just the sense of humor.
Oh my
as well.
gosh.
Yeah. There's a lot of back and forth, and it was fun. Yeah. Yeah.
He's very, very funny.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has his sense of humor is a gift.
Yeah, there's some mischievousness. I can't say that word, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
Mischievous. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes. That is
that kind of humor.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is kind of the best kind, right?
It's it definitely is gives you a gut laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, gives you a
right.
gut laugh. But I was telling Danielle and Jason earlier, I said my husband's very practical. He's so practical. And I'll say something to him. And last year I said something to him briefly in the kitchen, and he responded to me totally different. And I was like, what's going on? But it was positive. It's just, but I could tell that it was something that he really had learned a different way to interact with me.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about Journey Bravely, a little bit about it?
Yeah. So just to clarify, so Journey Bravely is kind of the name of our coaching and counseling practice that my wife Stephanie and I have together. So she's a therapist, a counselor. And then what you're talking about is a year-long men's group that I lead called A Year of Living Bravely. And,
Okay.
Really kind of the focus of that is to intentionally create space to think about how we're thinking is probably the best way to put it. There's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, and the author of the book is talking about we're in our daily lives, we're making decisions just in the moment, one after another, and he would talk about that as fast thinking. But our fast thinking is born out of our slow thinking. So when we take the time to slow down and think about our values, or think about what it is that we want to be true, really, when we really take the time to intentionally think about that then forms our fast thinking. So in the moment, we're going to show up differently if we've slowed down enough to do that slow thinking. And so really A Year of Living Bravely is just having the courage to do that slowing down, to do some introspective work of ourselves first, and then learning how, as we like more and more live the lives that we were created to live, that begins to bless those around us. And so, yeah, I think in like relationships, the idea of creating space is like, that's so important. We have a tendency to jump to judgment. We judge ourselves, we judge others, we judge a little bit of everything, and just slow down, create space to get curious with ourselves and with one another is a big part of what we do.
It's so funny because Jeff's like, you need to read this book, and I was like, what is it about? He's like, it's about going deep on the inside. I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Yeah,
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah,
but I have now. I'm doing the Fellowship Institute with Halftime.
Yeah,
it's a really and I it's funny because there's a lot of things that I'm learning about myself that I guess my characteristics, I like to just only focus on the strengths of those characteristics and not the basement. So some of it's visiting the basement and how, and it's easier for me just to focus on the balcony. Yeah. And so now I am and it's interesting because Jeff just went kind of through a lot of this.
Yeah.
And, I'm 46 years old. And so one of the questions that I have for you is about, and I feel like I've been this way, but I may have been more this way, being mindful. I think I may be more mindful of others outside of my family unit, okay, if that makes sense. So one of the questions is, how can practicing mindfulness help people at different life stages, from building careers in their 20s to navigating early nesters in their 50s, staying emotionally connected in their relationships?
Yeah. Well, so I think there's two different sides of mindfulness that you're talking about. One is to do a little bit of differentiating, is the word that I would use. We're surrounded by voices that are speaking into our lives all the time. Right? You turn on the TV, turn on podcasts, whatever the case might be, commercials, politicians, like it's all over, and all telling us how we should live. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think
so much of it's noise.
It's a lot of it is. But we hear it, and we're hearing so much of it that we're either reacting to it or we're like numbing out altogether. And it's just so much noise that our heads become clouded. And so I think part of mindfulness is differentiating from all of that and recognizing that each one of us has been given one life, and we get to decide what to do with it. And I think it's good to listen to all those voices, but I think it's important to do that with intentionality, and then to just take time to decide, okay, what is it that I want really, and that puts us on track to where we're responding to our calling, which I've heard you talk about in some of the other episodes that you have, and that becomes a blessing. The world around us. So I think that's one way, right, is to be mindful in that sense of like determining what it is that we want to be true really, and then aligning our decisions, our narratives, our disciplines around that. But the other is to pay attention to the other person as well. And I think mindfulness in that way, when we're secure with ourselves, it frees us to listen without judgment to the people around us, and to recognize they can have different perspectives and different thoughts, and that's okay. That I've got my life that I'm living, and this direction that I'm going, and somebody can have a different thought and be going a different direction, and be able to hold that space, suspending judgment, and to engage curiosity with those around you. Yeah. So at different stages of life, it's answering that question, like what do I want to be true, as opposed to, and I did this early in my life where I was living into the expectations of others. I'm wired to want to win, and it was always moving up the ladder, so to speak, and then finding myself in places that is like, I don't really enjoy this. I'm doing it because it feels like it was the next thing, but I didn't enjoy it. And life gets really, really hard when we do that. So yeah, I think at different stages of life, it's just going back to answering that question, like, what do I want to be true really? And then living towards that.
I think that, as you in your 20s, I think a lot of your life is, for me, it was starting the career, achieving success in the career, what I needed to do at that time, and so, I was raised, we're both Jeff and my father, but both of our fathers are engineers.
Yeah.
And so, and neither one of us can fix anything, which is kind of
because you had dads who did it for you, right?
Or we just didn't want to learn.
Yeah.
Maybe probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And so, but we can't fix anything. But was raised that you kind of chose a career. Uh-huh. And then that is what you did until you retired. Yeah. And even, irregardless of any of the, that you hone a craft, you become an expert in your field, and then you follow your success until you decide on your terms when it ends. So that's kind of how, we were raised. And so, but the younger generation now, people in their 20s, I mean, I know people in their early 30s that have already changed careers more than once.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, like how do you become a master of your craft? How do you know you even like it yet?
Yeah.
So kind of how would you, speaking to our generation, with that opportunity, because I mean, I talked to somebody the other day. He's like, what would I do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what did you want to do as a kid? And he's like, I wanted to be a pilot. I'm like, go to pilot school. He's like, I can't do that now. I'm like, why not? I'm like, are your eyes okay? He's like, no, I've got great eyesight. I'm like, why can't you do it? So there's something that was like told to us that says you can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many false narratives that we live with. Mm-hmm. And they go unchecked because we don't even know that we're living according to them. They're so ingrained in us that to think about thinking outside of that's really difficult. And so again, like a lot of the work that I do as a coach is challenging some of those narratives. And some of them are good and you want to hold on to them. And then some of them have served their purpose. Maybe they were good for a season. Mm-hmm. They're just not helpful anymore. And we can let go of those. And I think it's easy to ask why could I? And another way to ask is like what you were just saying, like, well, why not? Right? Like what's keeping you from doing that? And again, this is where I go back to like, we've each been given one life. And so wasting it doing something that you don't enjoy, there's tragedy in that. And when we do that, we're robbing the world of our best selves as well. And so finding those things, and here's the thing about finding the things that you're good at. If we're really good at them, we don't know that we're good at them, right? So there's this concept called the 4 levels of mastery.
Okay.
And the first level is you don't know that you don't know. And so I think about like you watch American Idol, those first episodes where people are trying out and they're like they can't sing, but they're convinced they can. That's like the first level of mastery. You don't know that you don't know, right?
Okay.
The second level is that that you know that you don't know. So if I got up and tried out on American Idol, I would be at that second level of mastery. Like, I know I'm not good at that. The third level is you know that you know. And so these are the skills that you've like learned and developed over time, and you're aware of them. Like I can do multiplication. That's like a level 3 for me. It's not natural, but I can do it and I've worked at it. And then level 4 are like you don't know that you know. And these are the things that like, and
say that again.
You don't know that you know.
Okay.
So I think about like, I had a friend that I love music and he's a musician, and this was 20 or 30 years ago. And he was like, as much as you love music, like you got to know how to play the guitar. And I was like, Jeff,
no.
I'm like, I can't do it. Right. Like I'm not good at it. And he's like, I will teach you. And so he sat down and like spent time trying to teach me. And the thing is he was gifted at it.
Yes.
So it was a skill that he had learned and developed, but he just had
a
natural gifting.
ability. Mm-hmm.
And it was so natural that he couldn't understand why it was so hard for me, because it was so easy for him. And there's just a lot of things like that in life where the people that you're sitting across the table from, and you can point out the gifts that they have and what a huge difference they're making, they're often not aware that that's a gift that's unique to them. the assumption is, well,
everyone's like
surely
that.
everybody can do
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's learning some of those things. And I think, like you were talking about the seasons of life, I think when we get later in life, we begin figuring out what those things are. And it's oftentimes in relationship to the people around us. Like we learn that, oh, those people can't sing even if they work at it. I can do that naturally. That's not me. But we all have those things. And I think as we get like later in life, like if we can learn how to maximize those, that's where life really begins to happen. And so you know what you're doing with this podcast, I think, and I know other people have said this too, like it's bringing out the things that you just naturally do. As I've been listening, like your interaction with people just makes them comfortable, draws them out. You invite people to laugh just by being you, right? And that's not, a lot of people would be sitting in the studio and really struggling to just be themselves, and you invite that. And it's something that you've learned, and I would imagine that that's something that you used in your former occupations as well, and now you've translated it just to a different setting, and you've learned how to lift the level of that and then lower the levels of the things that drain you or a lot more work.
Yes.
So yeah, that 4 levels of mastery I think can be really
Is
helpful.
there a book that is, or is that just?
You know what? I don't remember where I read that for the first time. I made notes of it, and it's stuck with me ever since. And so again, part of my role is helping people discover those things that they know, but they don't know that they know them. And then talking about how do we maximize these, not just for you, but for your family and for the community and just the world around you, right? When we're living our best lives, it invites others to do that as well. And so I love what you're doing here.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
Hey guys, I'm Stephanie from Healthy, Well, and Good. I'm so glad Cindy introduced me to Make Wellness. My favorite collection is their Muscle and Metabolic collection. Fit, lean, and hydrated. I take it every day. Take it for 2 weeks, see if you like it. I love it. I'm hooked. I think you guys will love it too.
You and your wife have been such a blessing to my family, as in our marriage and stuff like that. I could remember going to see Stephanie, and literally I had a male business partner and friend, walk out, and we saw each other. And I just ran up and hugged him. I was like, "Oh, you don't have we're all just trying to be better."
Yeah.
But I literally ran up to him and I hugged him. And
Yes.
he's a business partner, and I'm friends with his wife. But I saw him, and it was we all need
Absolutely.
we all need direction. Sometimes there's people that have been given the gift of helping people stay on track and have wisdom and knowledge in certain places. And so I really, really appreciate you. I really appreciate you saying that. So let's go to giving activities. Back to a little bit of, acts of service, stuff like Lighthouse Retreat, enhancing one's sense of purpose and deep connection throughout decades of life. So in your experience, and especially with Lighthouse Retreat, I bet you've seen kind of the impact through children coming when they were young and then getting older, maybe interning and kind of getting that heart of service.
Yeah. We've got a lot of kids that served on retreat, and some of them that were served on retreat that are now oncology nurses. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of whose brother was on treatment and has been cancer free for quite a long time, but he's now in medical school studying to be a doctor he will point back to his experience at Lighthouse. And so, there's just all kinds of stories about that. And again, I think when we're doing what we love for the benefit of others, again, that's where life is.
This is where the magic happens.
Found. This is where the magic happens.
It's so funny. Do you know Jackie Ward?
I don't know that I do.
She's fabulous. You'd love her.
Yeah.
But so we went for a walk.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I've taken the leap.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Are you striking a pose?"
And
I told you that.
You told me this.
I was like, "No."
Yeah.
I'm just looking up, and she's like, "You should be striking a pose," and I'm like, "I am a pose striker." But it's interesting that when I'll just say, God's not afraid to let you be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and I remember the context of that was like you would let go of one trapeze, you're flying through the air, working to catch the other one, and your friend's like, well, are you striking a pose? And when you told me that story, I just started laughing because it's like, who thinks to strike a pose? Like, you're just looking for the other trapeze, right? In that in-between space.
But it's funny because you would think, like, as a dancer, I love to dance.
Yeah.
And so taking a leap is like, it's actually exhilarating.
Yeah.
You're in the air.
Yeah.
And so I might have to get back to the exhilaration part of it. I told Jeff, I said, I don't know if this whole thing is a practice so that I realize how much of a great husband he is, because he's been like my biggest cheerleader through all of this.
Awesome.
So I said, I don't know if God's just using this to like teach me some lessons, but our children are 12 and 10. I know. Oh, by the way, Jeff told me that your son made the FSU pickleball team.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So Ethan, our oldest, plays pickleball. For the FSU club team.
That's
he's
cool.
Loving it.
Oh
yeah.
So congratulations.
Yes,
on that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So our children are 10 and 12, and I know that so what are the ages of your sons?
So Ethan, this is where I get in trouble. Ethan is 20.
Okay.
Caleb is 17, and then Will just turned 13.
Okay.
So we have.
So Will and Lillian are the same age?
Uh-huh.
Are they friends?
I mean, they hang out.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah. Lillian's she's fun.
Yeah.
She's fun, and she's funny.
Yeah.
She's
funny. I'm in middle school. Like, phew.
What? No one likes middle school. I love middle school.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Danielle was talking about that at lunch. She was like, middle school. I mean, I would say there were some challenges in middle school, but is it all around experience? I loved it.
Oh man. Yeah.
So why is middle school so hard for everybody?
It's just awkward. So awkward.
Well, I hate that the boys and girls don't hang out. I've noticed that. Like in elementary school, the boys will still kick you on the playground.
Yeah.
But in elementary school, they'll still kick you on the playground. You're still kind of like even playing field.
Yeah.
And then in middle school,
things start changing.
Changing, and it's funny because somebody sent me a picture, and a boy had his arm around Lillian at a dance.
Yeah.
And Jeff goes, "What the heck?
Yeah.
It's middle school. They're supposed to be standing on the opposite sides of the cafeteria." I was like, "Oh my gosh, Jeff."
Yeah.
And so, but we're in that really busy season of life.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about creating space earlier.
Yeah.
And so one of my questions is, in a busy life filled with responsibilities, how can individuals and couples create space both physically and emotionally for reflection, growth, and deeper intimacy?
Yeah. Well, so this is easier to say than to do.
Mm-hmm. I've seen you at the store, though, buying flowers for your wife.
That's true. I have gotten caught doing that once or twice. And when you're doing that, you want to be sure that you get seen by others, right? I'm
like, oh, is it Stephanie's birthday? And you're like, no. And then I give Jeff the side eye. No, just kidding.
Yeah, Steph just likes to keep flowers in the kitchen. That started just a couple years ago. It hasn't always been the case, but I think it's just a matter of being intentional about it. And if it's basically got to be scheduled. So I've got a tool called the Ideal Week, and it's really simple, but it's just sitting down either as an individual or as a couple and just charting out what your ideal week would look like. And you want to include all the things that are happening. You guys have soccer and cheer, and there's all those things are happening. You just put them all on your week because you've got to get them to cheerleading and soccer practice, and then you put all the other things that you want to happen, and just make sure that there's scheduled time for it. And you may never live out that ideal week, right? That's why it's called the ideal week, but you're operating from that place as opposed to hopefully one day we experience an ideal week and it's like some imaginary thing off in the distance. It's like, no, we're going to start from our ideal week.
Okay.
And then know that life happens and we've got to make adjustments. But if we begin noticing like our time together keeps getting pushed out, like that can't happen for more than a week or two. We got to find a way to make that a priority again or make up that time. So I think it's just being intentional. Again, it's what do you want to be true really, rather than allowing life to dictate right? What your life looks
To
like.
get that,
Like
it'll come. If you don't get ahead
That's
of it,
right.
it will get ahead of you.
That's right. So you sit down ahead of time and like, we are ridiculously in charge of our schedule. We get to decide. And that may mean there's less activities. It may mean there's more activities. But like just recognizing we get to decide. We are not a victim of our busyness or our schedules. Like we choose those. And just, again, being intentional about the choices that we make.
Have you ever read Sacred Pace by Terry Loper?
No, but you mentioned that last week. I've
so
got another
good.
one called Sacred Rhythms.
Ooh.
That's maybe similar, but yeah, I wrote that down in my notes actually because
It's good.
I struggle with busyness.
I think we all do. I think it's
Well, I think for strivers and achievers, like those of us that were wired that way, and
I mean,
a lot
I'm
of times,
definitely
the way we were raised. It's just you run yourself into the ground and you don't rest until you're sick.
I'm trying to get
I'm
better about. I
guilty.
do practice the Sabbath. Do you practice the Sabbath religiously?
Not religiously.
I'm pretty. So Jeff practices the Sabbath on Saturday,
Yeah,
and I practice it on Sunday.
that's.
So, but I could get a little legalistic a little bit on Sunday. I was like, I would feed the dog, but God told me not to do anything today. So
Yeah.
and so, but no, I need to work on that. Jeff's like, you're getting a little.
Yeah.
He's like, you're getting, and so.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to read I'm reading the Old Testament right now. You need to read the Old Testament too. And he goes, just stop where they start talking about you can't eat pork. He's like, because I want to still eat pork.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting about the Sabbath, like that can become a performance trap for us as well, right? And it's like we're slowing down and we're doing Sabbath, but we're doing Sabbath. Like it's
Yes.
still a performance
Yes.
driven thing. So yeah, when you're wired that way,
It's hard.
It's when
But
Sabbath becomes an achievement.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were achievement too. I guess I don't know why you seem so much more mellow than I am. I seem a little more. I seem a little more hectic. You seem a little more mellow than me.
I mean,
Is it because
I
you went to seminary?
No.
And I went to Auburn and partied.
No, not at all. No, I that is something that I'm learning, and I have moments and times where I'm good at that, and then others where I'm not. And honestly, I'm able to do it better for others. So when I'm working to create space, like I recognize I've got to slow down to serve the person across from me well. But if I don't decide to do that, I'm going to be having a conversation with you while I'm doing something else. So my wife will have to like lock eyes with me and say, "Hey, I need your focus."
Yes.
This is a skill that I'm learning. That's one of those. That's a level 3 thing for me. I know that I'm doing it. I know that I know how to do it. It doesn't come naturally.
There's something about being present within the moment that you're given.
Yeah.
It's so, for me, and I guess for you as well, somebody who likes to achieve, I take pride in doing multiple things at one time. I mean, one time I called Jeff. I just had a baby. I was driving to an appointment, and I was in the car, and I was doing the a breast milk machine pumping while I was driving.
Oh my goodness.
And like reading my notes for the meeting.
Yeah.
And I called Jeff, and I was like, I'm freaking Superwoman. And he was like, what are you doing? Are you pumping while driving? He like instantly went to safety.
Yeah.
He's like, are you pumping driving? That's not safe. I was like, you're ruining my Superwoman moment. I'm like, hung up on him.
Yeah.
But I was like so proud of myself. I was like, look at me, I could do it all. And so I'm working on that too, because there really is something about slowing down, being intentional, and literally in that moment being fully present for either the person, for yourself, for God. Like there's something about just letting all of it, everything else kind of happen. And you know what? That's when time slows down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think all of us are tempted to live in one of 3 places, right? Some of us live in the past, and the tendency is to get stuck in regret or thinking like I should have said or I wish I would have. Others of us, and this is how I'm wired, like I'm living in the future all the time. I'm always thinking about the next thing. And the next thing might be 5 minutes from now. It might be a year from now, but that's where I'm living. And then there's the others of us that just have the gift of being able to be in the moment and to be present. And again, that's one of those things that I'm working on as well, but that's just not easy.
So do you have any clients that are 10 plus years older than you?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
So is there a theme between, we'll get a little bit into like the marriage, the dynamics of marriage, which is a very complicated relationship.
Uh-huh.
It's a very complicated relationship.
Yes.
I told Jeff, I said, could you imagine if we actually had like real problems?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? We may actually like not argue about like, it could be anything.
Yeah.
During COVID, where people were like dying, we were around our friends and we started arguing about what stocks to buy.
Yeah.
I'm like, blue chips, Delta, Disney, Ford. And he was like, nah, 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 nah. And I literally thought to myself, dude, like the world is like shutting down and like we're arguing over what stocks to buy. Yeah. Like we can what role, like I know you're real big into like curiosity. So like, is there a theme among like your older clients that are married and down to like, our age, even down to like newly married, that there's like a theme of that, some practical steps that people can do for their spouse to, like, I know like, love and respect, because not everybody, but most people know, I actually adore, I'm not saying he doesn't drive me crazy, but I absolutely adore my husband.
Yeah.
He's got the gift of wisdom. He makes me laugh every day.
Yeah.
But what are some kind of themes that you see across the generations? And like, what are some of the things that we can be mindful of and proactive about, but keeping that very important relationship healthy?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I can think of a couple things.
Okay.
The first thing I was a pastor for 20 years.
Okay.
Before working with Lighthouse, and I don't know, maybe once a pastor, always a pastor. But I did a lot of weddings because I worked with college students. And one of the questions that when they would get engaged and they would come ask me to do their wedding, I would sit down and meet with them. And one of the first questions that I would ask is, why marriage?
Okay.
And really what I was asking is, what is the purpose of marriage? As you guys are entering this relationship, what's compelling you to do that? What do you want to be true? And I don't think most of us can answer that question. And so I think the first thing is just getting clear on what your hopes for marriage are. And so maybe you've been married for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Like, why? What are you hoping to get out of the marriage? And getting some clarity about that, both personally, but then together as well. And just working to align that desire. So I think that's the first thing. I think in engaging with a relationship, again, this is where we like react in situations, and we're in our fast thinking instead of like operating more out of our slow thinking. But as we're engaging in relationship, again, it's important to be asking, like in every conversation or in every back and forth or give and take, it's asking, what do I want to be true?
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
So most disagreements, like we go into fight, flight, or freeze, right? And it's really about defend. Like we want to win the conversation, or we want to win the argument, or
I know I'm right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Or we want to defend our position.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay,
because like this is my truth. Yes. Yes. So I'm just saying, like, as an example, like I'm like, no, this is my truth.
Yeah. Or if you're right, then that means I'm wrong, right? And we don't want to be wrong. And so, like in those moments, to just take a breath and ask, like, what do I want really? And most of the time in healthy relationships, is like I don't want, what I really want is I want connection with my spouse. I want trust with my spouse, right? If that's what I really want, I'm going to engage conversations differently than if what I really want is to win the conversation. And so I think it's slowing down and just asking yourself, what do I want really? So I think that's true just from like for each person personally in those conversations. And then I think the other thing is when couples can agree on like, this is the direction that we're moving together, then you're no longer like pointing at each other and like, I would just wish you would change, or, vice versa. It's like, we're headed in this direction. This is what we want our relationship to look like. And instead of focusing on the problems between us, like not ignoring them, but instead of like focusing on the problems, right? Well, he leaves his, clothes on the floor everywhere, and it makes me crazy, and I wish he would change, right? It's like, okay, you can focus on that, or vice versa, right? Like guys have things like my wife, I will set a drink down and that glass is gone before I know it because she's always cleaning, right? Makes me crazy. It's like, okay, I wish my wife would let me finish my Dr. Pepper before it ends up in the trash or in the dishwasher. And we can focus on those problems. Or it's like, what do we want to be true about our marriage? Like, what are those values? What are those goals? And, for us, it's building trust and cheering one another on and those sorts of things. And if we can put our eyes on that, now we're not going at each other, right? And even if we're in different places, we're moving in the same direction together. And so, again, it's the slowing down and creating space to be intentional about that. And couples that have been at it for a long time and haven't done that, and so they've been at each other for a long time, it can take a little bit to break that, but it's possible. It's just slowing down and asking, like, what do we want to be true, really?
So for the people, I have some friends that were going through some marital issues, and they're like, we've never been to counseling. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? Like, I can't. Jeff and I wouldn't have made it past our first year.
Yeah.
So for people that feel that counseling is for people that aren't strong enough to white knuckle through it, like what would you recommend to somebody that's really in the early stages of like, maybe our marriage can benefit from this, getting some advice or having even just a third party, an objective party. What would you say to encourage them to kind of maybe seek counsel or guidance from somebody that may have some, tools to help them?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the best counselors, therapists, or coaches really, and we keep talking about this, so I may start to sound like a broken record, but really is just creating space.
So what does that look? So
it's looking to create safe space, right? And to ask open-ended questions and to invite couples to step out of the chaos of that defensiveness and that wanting to win arguments. And
so what are some practical ways to kind of break what in the Dr. Emerson Edwards' book, Love and Respect, he calls it the crazy cycle.
Yeah.
That you're not couples always live in, but they kind of get back to that cycle. What are some practical ways to break that?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm always encouraging radical curiosity.
Okay.
So rather than judging somebody else as bad, wrong, frustrating, or whatever, just creating space for curiosity. So the other person in the relationship, their behavior may not be helpful or even healthy, but where is that coming from?
Okay.
And with a heart of compassion, engaging them in conversation. Another way to put it is...
give us an example.
Yeah, I think... there's a reason that my wife grabs the Dr. Pepper bottle before I'm done with it and puts it in the trash, right? And I can get frustrated about that and can get upset about it, or I can get frustrated about it and then get curious. Okay, so tell me, what does that do for you?
The tidiness, yeah.
When you're tidy, yeah.
It's like she's like, it calms me, yeah.
Yeah. Like just, and then it's like, oh, okay, like you're not just trying to keep me from enjoying my Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
Right? There's other things going on, and it's that learning more about one another in the context of that. And so again, going to a coach, therapist, or counselor, like they're inviting you and creating space for that slower thinking and to begin modeling that curiosity. So I think the best coaches, the best therapists, the best counselors are asking first. They're asking questions. They're asking good, curious questions, creating safe space for responses, suspending judgment, and then offering like insights when the time's right. But most of it's the asking the questions, and yeah. Hopefully that helps.
It does. It does. I think that when people are frustrated or having some challenges, the first thing wouldn't be to engage and kind of seek the layer deeper into that. They may, like for me, like if I get frustrated, I want to retract.
Yeah.
I want to, but like actually like try to figure out why or how, may bring some enlightenment to me where, I'm less frustrated by the action or the comment or, so I think that that's really some insightful stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It's to seek first to understand.
Seek first to understand.
And then to be understood, which comes from Stephen Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But if couples do that, or even in like friendships or even in working relationships, the seek first to understand and then to be understood is so powerful. Another way to put it is people can only hear you when they're moving towards you. So when we start telling people things, their defenses go up.
Yes.
They're moving away.
Yes.
They don't hear you anymore. When you ask questions, you're inviting them in, right? And they're going to begin moving towards you. And it just creates safe space then for you to share like your perspective, right? So people can only hear you when they're moving towards you. And that's true for spouses. It's true for employees, employers, and it's true with our kids, right? I do a lot of telling as a parent. I'm learning to ask so that they're moving towards me. Yeah.
Todd, thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah,
thank you for giving us some insight, and I appreciate all that you and Stephanie do. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for what you put together for the men's group. I know that they were all really blessed by that time, and I think it created not only you had that fellowship that Dietrich Bonhoeffer talked about so much about, that having that community life together. Yes, it's so. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is like, I love him.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I love him.
Yeah.
And but I just want to thank you for your time, and for everyone that's listening. It's Todd Craig. You can we're going to put his information in the show notes, and thank you for spending your time with us because we know it's your greatest commodity. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Please like, subscribe, and follow Soul Hype Cindy.